What's going on? Welcome to the Reality NSFW Survivor 41 Deep Dive Podcast. We are talking episode 9 of Survivor 41. I am your host, Alex Rubino. Sadly not joined by Lauren Pratt, but we do have a great guest filling in. Joining us once again, my good friend, Dan Montchal. Dan, how are you?
Alex, I'm doing great. Glad to be back talking another really good episode of Survivor. So really looking forward to it. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. The episode was a lot of fun, even if I didn't like the results personally. Sorry, I love Nasir and Evie both so much, and I love everybody. But I'm thinking, why not? Why don't we just get right into Tribal? That's what the real chicken and beef of the episode was. So, the groups, for those who need a refresher, the two groups that went to Tribal, the first one was Erica, Heather, Nasir, Ricard, and Shan. And then the second group was Danny, Deshawn, Liana, Evie, and Xander. But we start with the first group, the group that went to the UA camp that did not get to enjoy chicken and beef stew. What did you think about this first Tribal Council as a whole? And really, I guess let's talk about the twist as a whole that they've done a couple times before.
I don't hate them doing this twist where they're breaking it up. It seems like they're definitely going back to that well a little bit, I guess, more recently, and they're doing quicker than they have before because what they did it in Ghost Island as well as Island of the Idols.
Yep.
I don't think it's bad specifically because it gives some people that are, on the Minority Alliance a chance to get back in it. I don't think it's something that I want to see every season, that it should be a staple, but I'm fine if they get back to it, every handful of seasons.
Yeah. I'm with you there on it. I do wish they would maybe not do it at the final 10 because it's just getting predictable doing it at the same exact spot. Maybe honestly, I would maybe say do it like final 9 and give one person immunity or send them to exile or something. That would be how I would do it. But alas.
Or I think it also could be something that they could do if they're sticking with the same format of maybe rather than kind of doing that at the final 12. So you do the 6 and 6. Yeah, or something along the lines that way, because we've never seen it done at 12 before. It just always seems to be at 10.
No, but I also am an advocate for a smaller merge, so I don't even want to give them the possibility of doing it with 12. But you're thinking more in reality that they will keep doing 12-person merges. All right. So the whole plan really centered around who's going to go home, Heather or Nasir. And I found this really interesting. At the forefront, I mean, what happens? Nasir gets blindsided with an idol. Shan uses the extra vote, and they go 3-3, and then unanimously get Nasir on the revote. If you're Shan, what do you think the right move is here?
I still think it's probably the right move. I get that she felt that she had Nasir and was really close. I just see that, after this, we're obviously down to the final 8, and she has her idol. I couldn't imagine at this point that they believe Xander would play his idol because he's safe. And I feel like just having 3 idols in play at 8, that can get really messy. So I understand her being like, hey, I want to keep Nasir. If she still believes that she's good with, Danny and Deshawn and Liana on the other side, I think it's probably still a good move just because Nasir has that idol.
He does, but my question then is, why use the extra vote? If you're okay getting rid of Nasir, just make it unanimous 4-1, send Nasir home.
I think part of that comes back to the point where Heather, and I think for the most part, like, she played a lot of things kind of poorly, but it honestly worked out for her. Like, just her throwaway comment that Shan came up to her while they were talking was like, hey, I want to make sure it's not me. And Heather pretty much says, why? I can't tell you that. And so I think it just had to be done in the off chance that Heather and Erica would throw their votes somewhere else.
For sure. I get it from that perspective of its the ultimate like backup plan and protecting against that. But at that point, I'd almost say just let Ricard cast the extrovert. I think she is, by having cast the extrovert, by having the idol that she's going to play, I think it's putting more and more of that future target on her back. It's somehow still not there fully, according to anybody that's not really named Deshawn or Heather. Um, but I think to me, it's Shan needs to, I think, learn a little bit of pick your battles to end up winning the war. And I think Shan's great at getting her way every single time, but I almost think she's not fully taking a step back and realizing I can lose this one and ultimately win out.
I don't think she was ever going to let Ricard cast it, though, simply just because she wanted, if she gets to the end, she wants to be able to state that. And you've kind of seen that going back at previous episodes where it was where Jeannie was ultimately taken out. That Ricard said, hey, a lot of these plans are my ideas, but Shan is kind of the one that goes and closes them. And I think that if her game plan ultimately is Ricard's her number one, it's going to stick with him, which who knows how that's going to play out.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think it's going to play out that way. But if she wants to keep that open as an option and she wants to sit next to Ricard, I don't think she wants to give that vote to him, especially while it's in her possession, and make it seem like it was Ricard's move when realistically, I mean, it was, because he was the one that came up with the idea.
I mean, at that point, to me, it's if you're going to burn the extra vote here as ultimate insurance, I'd almost just let him do it as, all right, Ricard, here's your little thing. Now let me placate you. Because almost like with Deshawn, they're going to get more and more upset that she's literally doing everything. It's almost like she's dealing with like a little kid. You need to give them a little something to really placate them and like calm them down. Let them think they're doing something, because they don't even think they're doing it. They think, oh, Shan's doing everything and I'm just along for the ride, only increasing her target later on.
But I think in some degree she did placate him, because for the fact that you could see right away that wasn't something she wanted to do. She's spoken out in the past that she doesn't want to get rid of Nasir. So I think she did cave somewhat for the fact that she's like, fine, Ricard, like we'll go along with this, but I'm going to be the one that executes it.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. But then I don't know. It's the common argument in Survivor. Do you go with the person who you trust more, or do you go with the person who has less power in the game? And I think that was pretty much the clear decision maker here between Heather and Nasir. Do you take out the person who is more loyal to you and more dangerous, or do you take out the person who's not dangerous but also not with you and not working for you?
Yeah, I think also what kind of led to it was the fact that you did have this smaller group. And as far as Shan knows, in the past, 24 hours, she's kind of had a few different blow-ups with Deshawn and going back and forth. And so I think it would have been different if she was still feeling very secure that, hey, that kind of cookout alliance, we're going to stay strong to the end. But if you still kind of feel uneasy about the fact that maybe that's going to, maybe we speculated the whole season that the Civil War is probably going to come between Shan and Ricard at some point, the way that we got all those scenes. But maybe the first battle is Shan versus Deshawn. And at that point, I think she just needs to make sure that she has Ricard locked up, specifically in the situation she was at right there.
I'm with you there. I would say overall, I almost always have this stance of the game is about people who you trust versus who you don't. And I think even though Nasir is more dangerous, Nasir also is the type of player who is focused on loyalty. Yes, he is an idol, and yeah, he said, I'm going to use it for myself. However, I do think there's a chance he would maybe use it for a Shan or Ricard, because he felt, for whatever reason, really loyal to them. Like, they've done a very good job of keeping him loyal over Heather, who, yes, Heather doesn't have an idol advantage yet, but you also don't know where she's coming from. She just showed you in the last vote how erratic she is and how all over the place she can be. And to me, it comes down to the devil I know versus the devil I don't. Even though the devil I know is a lot more powerful, I know where they are. I know what motivates them, what drives them, and I can at least have a little bit of control on them. And for a player like Shan, whose game is all about control and controlling people incredibly well, I'm a little hesitant in that. But if the idea is give Ricard what he wants, I almost wish he gave Ricard a little bit more. Just said, you know what, Ricard, you can have this one.
Yeah, that's fair. And I wonder if any of it has to do, and maybe, I'm just overthinking here, but the fact that Ua tribe, they kind of, as they stated at the last tribal council that they had when they were still in Ua, that they had to play so much harder and so much faster out of the gate. And I wonder for Ricard if it was something that like they had, these first crazy 12 days or whatever the pre-merge was, and the fact that they had a few votes that were more straight. I get that the merge vote wasn't straightforward, but he got their way and it was nothing too crazy. It was just the fact that we were playing so hard. We haven't done anything big in the last few votes. And at a tribe of 5, that's the perfect time to do something like that.
Yeah. From Ricard's perspective, we take Ricard. Ricard's clearly the less powerful person in that group. He's he's already playing from the bottom of him pretty much going, I have to take Shan out at some point in order for me to win. And I bet Shan's thinking that with Ricard, but she's at a point of she'd like to take him out. I don't think she needs to. Ricard knows if he has any shot of winning, he needs to take Shan out, and Shan needs to be the big piece on his mantle of look. Shan was the power player of the season. She was controlling everything. All of you know this, and I got her. And I think he's trying to set himself up in a position to do it. So I can understand for his perspective, let me take out the person who is maybe loyal to me, but is more loyal to us as a group and is not as likely going to let me take out Shan. Whereas Ricard, Heather has really no loyalty to Ricard, but if Ricard says to her, hey, let's work together to take out Shan, she's going to say, oh, hell yeah, let's do it.
Agreed. And I think that was, as at least what we're shown in the episode, was it was originally Ricard that approached Heather and Erica. And I think that was really smart on his part, because he was the one that we see that pitches the idea to him first, so that if he needs them down the line, I think they're going to gravitate more towards him, because it seems, especially Erica, has a little bit of disdain for Shan, how she's running things. And so I think, while it, you can debate whether, like we have, whether it's good or not for Shan, I think it actually is a really good move for Ricard.
Oh, I'm with you there in terms of it being a pretty good move for Ricard. I still think I'm still iffy about the extra vote and the whole thing. And I think Ricard could have maybe tried to get it from Shan, even at least, because I think then he could have, at least if he was going to use it this round, let him use it. At least from his perspective, I think that would have looked better for him, saying he used the extra vote. But if not, try to keep it in his back pocket, so that way Shan has as a reason to keep him around. Even if it's small reason, there's a reason there to keep him around. But the move itself, I like it. I'm just hoping for his sake that Erica and Heather actually feel loyalty to him and realize that he was the one who did it. And on the jury side, that Nasir can realize Ricard is the one who made that move too. Because I think if both those things don't happen, Ricard is not going to, I'd say, be in the most optimal position for the risk that he took. And it was a pretty big risk, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, I know a lot of these it's dependent on how things play out, the rest of the game. But I do think that ultimately it was good. And it was something that I'm not sure, like, did you see this happening? Because I thought for sure we weren't going to get the straightforward vote, at least on this tribal, for the simple fact that whenever it's, you get back to camp, and they got back to the UA camp, and it was, well, this is really straightforward. It's like, I thought that we were being set up for someone to get blindsided the entire time.
To me, it almost felt like they were, by them trying to almost spoon feed you so much that it's Heather, I almost felt like they were spoon feeding us that it was Nasir, unfortunately. And I was almost, the only reason I wasn't 100% sure is because I was in denial and wanted Nasir to stay. I'm being fully transparent with that. Everybody knows I thought Heather was going home, and I was like, yeah, in my opinion, it was the right move. So I was maybe a little like, yeah, I know Nasir said there's no way I'm going home 5 times over. Before and after the challenge, he said, I'm not going home, which Nasir, don't tell the target they're going home. And also don't say, I'm definitely not going home. I'm definitely not going to help you when you're going home. That Nasir, wake up a little bit. But
yeah, I mean, I think the best thing he probably could have done there is at least told them, like, yeah, that's a great idea. Like, let's take out Ricard or Shan, whichever target they were going to pick.
It's called acting,
and at least make them think that, all right, we're getting back together, Lubu strong. We're going to make a move. But I don't know if maybe just his English is a second language or just that he seems to be such a good-natured person. He might not have that in him, but it definitely was a misstep on his part.
Oh, I don't think it was the Langer. I think it was partially the good nature of him, but also really the confidence. And he was like, I have an idol and I have two tight allies that are in a good position in the game. And he thinks that the three of them can go very far. That's what I think he's saying. And he is almost saying, I'm in such a good position right here. Let me not do anything to risk it, not even consider another option. Don't even let Heather get a thought. Because if Heather starts thinking, she might pin it on him, like according to him at least, like she did the very previous tribal council.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wish he at least not even like pretended. I wish he seriously considered joining up with Erica and Heather, because he has the prior relationships with them from Luvu, and say, you know what? It's our time. We've been on the bottom. I've got an idol. We don't even need it though. Let's do something. 3-2, pick whoever you want to go home.
Well, and I think it would have been good for him on his part, because obviously he would have stayed, but also knowing that once again, after this, you're getting down to the final 8. And he knows that if I can get to the final 4 fire making challenge, which we all assume is probably going to be back again this year, he is going to win it, which means we get to the final 8. I have an idol for safety 1 round. Like, I only need to make it through a few more rounds and I can punch my ticket to the end.
Yeah. At this point, also, Erica is safe. You know you can't get her. And yes, to him, Heather's a little bit of a threat. But I really think if you can work with her and you are the one that saves her, because flat out, he could have put himself in such a power position by saying, Heather, I'm saving you. It's going to be us 3. Yeah, he's maybe not at the top of that, and he can't ride that to the end of the game. But I do think for him, it's worth taking out one of the 2 big players in the game. Now, yes, they're your allies, but they are so much more loyal to each other than they would ever be to Nasir. And I also just wish he tried. I think that would have been interesting. And yeah.
And also, I wouldn't be surprised moving forward if they continue to do this split where, all right, it's 5 and 5 at the merge. I almost feel like if you have an idol and you're at risk, we're going to see more and more people in the future, if they're paying attention, just play it there, whether they think they're going or not, for the simple fact that every time you do this, you get at least one blind side. And at that point, when it's down to such a small group that can only be one of the 4 of us, I'm making sure I survive that vote.
Do you think Jeff and production wanted Advantage get in here? Because that's ultimately a big reason why I think they did this. I think they wanted everybody scared enough to play their advantages. They wanted the idols gone, they wanted the extra roads gone, and ultimately we still have 3 idols in the game, which I don't think makes them too excited.
No, I mean, maybe they wanted it. I think a lot of it just had to figure out like how it was all going to break down, because I mean, if Xander doesn't win, which I get that's going to the other, I think you're at least getting 1. I'm not necessarily saying they won it, but I don't think they would have hated it either, because obviously they seem to like the whole advantage get in more than the fans did.
Oh, they like the advantage get in, but you also look at what they did the very next season was instituting a shot clock on the idol on all these advantages, because they like advantage get in, but they also don't like waiting. They want advantage get in nearly every tribal council, I think.
I think they just want, more fireworks at tribal. The ones where it's, hey, it's really straightforward. Nothing. It's, hey, you're on the bottom. They're like, I think that's how we would have seen. They wouldn't have enjoyed it if had they not won the last tribal, where it just would have been straightforward for the most part. And let's get Evie out. I don't think that's as exciting. So I do think that they want to, they're sprinkling in a little bit more, because they don't want everything to always be straightforward. Because while as, viewers, we kind of want more of that purity of the game, they're looking at it as they want more excitement at the end of the episode.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out that just was really funny to me at this tribal, one, they're talking about how much OS sucks as a camp, and then 2, Heather saying, cue the idol, and I have no idea what that insect was, but that's just falling on Tiffany, assuming that the timing was right and it wasn't just an editing trick. That was just hilarious. And even if it wasn't an editing trick, it was well done, because I just laughed at it.
Oh, I fully believe that it was probably an editing trick, but well done. Like that's just
Yeah.
if you have that clip, you have to play it.
What is that? What is that? Because I remember it fell on, I believe it was it Taylor? It fell on Taylor at MVGX. I was mixing up the names. It's Taylor and MVGX. I remember that, and like Chris Hammonds is like trying to flick it away.
Yeah, I have no idea what that
It's
insect
some
is.
insect oil. Yeah. It's like it looked like a beetle almost, like a big beetle.
Yeah, just
like
larger.
A native beetle of Fiji. I'm just gonna call it, but yeah, that happens. I like the talk. Them basically just saying, "Oh yeah, we all know the idols there," and Jeff has to pretending to act shocked. Like, what? You all figured it out? I thought this was foolproof. About like Shan and Nasir having the idol. I just thought that was a little funny as well.
The one thing that I am curious about is because you were asking, do they want an advantage get-in? Do you think it's surprising that they didn't place a merge idol? Now, I don't think it was needed with having 3 go there, but generally you see that there's one from each pre-merge camp, and then there's one that's planted at the merge. Do you think it's surprising that that hasn't come up yet?
Maybe it had to do with the math of everything, because you have 3 idols in the game. You have, at that point, everybody had their shot in the dark. So that's 2 more. You could theoretically have had 3 people say, at least at the first tribal, where you had them split up. You could have had three idols played, 3 people safe, and then the shot in the dark saves 2 more people. And I think they were worried about there being no way for every there has to be a way where somebody is not immune. So, but that's my only thinking, because maybe they're also like 3's enough. I don't know.
Well, that also makes me curious that had Xander found that advantage in the last episode, what would it have been? I mean, history tells us that it's an extra vote or another steal a vote or something like that. I mean, but you also could see them doing something a little bit off the wall because they have all season.
You know what? They might have just said, hey, it's another legacy advantage. Xander, you're safe at the final 6 if you make it that far.
Yeah. That was one of the things I was wondering what it possibly could have been.
I'm almost thinking it was a legacy advantage because they did it the same. It was just almost the exact same challenge. It was the same exact way. It was hidden. It didn't say even beware. It just said advantage on it.
But that one was the steal a vote that Sarah got, because she got off. She went over because she used that. The one that she used to get Michaela out. The legacy advantage was.
That's fair enough. Okay, yeah. Wow, there are too many advantages from Sarah past. I'm messing them up. I don't know. It's just a guess of mine. It could have been another extra vote or steal vote, but for some reason I'm thinking it was something that would have involved giving Xander safety or giving somebody who sat out of the challenge actual safety. But I don't know. And I think we'll find out, because I don't think they can resist an advantage not going into the game that they've planted. What do you think about that? Because I think it has to come back at some point.
You would think so, but the fact that we haven't seen it yet, I mean, still adding in more advantages when you're getting down to 8 people with still all the ones that are still there. I think that there's a chance we see it, but I don't think it's a definite that we see it. Because I could see it being something like that if you found it, like, oh, you sat out, but you have like safety for just tonight's tribal or something along those lines.
Maybe, but I also think there's a reason that they showed Jeff picking it up, saying nobody found it, and was like, all right. He almost said we'll have to try again or something.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that. Like, I feel like they wouldn't have shown him putting it in the spot. They should have shown him like chucking into the water, saying, all right, that's done.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if we saw it back sometime before the end of the season.
Advantage get-in might be coming, especially now that we're only down to 2 idols, but we'll see. We shall see. And I also, for all the crap I gave Heather for the last episode, and as a game player, justifiably so, good job this episode. Heather, and I also have to give Eric credit, knocked it out of the park playing Nasir. I thought that was just brilliant. The acting was phenomenal.
No, it was very good. Well, I still think that there were some flaws in her acting. I don't think that Heather had the greatest acting, but she obviously did enough to not tip off Nasir.
I mean, I don't think Nasir had a clue, and I have to give her the credit on that. Erica, you see, is like pretending to nearly be in tears. Heather is actually crying at a point and talking about like how it's been a great journey and all that, and how she's fighting. So, I mean, what flaws did you see in it? Because I didn't see many, or at least nothing major.
Like I said, I think that there were some issues with her acting. I felt going into it, I thought, oh, okay, like I felt pretty confident that it was going to be Nasir who they were ultimately going to turn it on, because once Ricard got his wheel spinning, I thought that's where it was going to go. But then what made me kind of second guess was Heather had that one line at Tribal Council where she's like, I'm just so proud, like, my kids and my family, they're going to be able to watch this later. And I was just thinking, oh no, like they're not going to see her at all. Like that's an awful line to leave in there.
They're not gonna see her at all. I mean, they don't. They didn't see Heather in the game the first month. I mean, Heather was literally making "Where's Heather" parodies on Twitter. My God, good on her. Her
Yeah,
and
I mean, it
Erica.
was that. I think it was after the merge episode. I was talking with, it was my girlfriend, and she watches all the episodes, but not, nearly super fans like the rest of us. And I was trying to throw out a scenario and mention that, oh, someone could do this and bring in Heather. And her response was, "Who's Heather?" I was like, yep, that's accurate.
I mean, listen, I like to think I follow this pretty closely. I'm like watching every episode twice. There were moments where I was counting people. And I'm like, wait, I know we're missing one. Who are we missing? And when I'm missing people, that's not good. But I mean, now I'm not forgetting who Heather is, and I like seeing Heather. Heather seems like a really self-aware player, at least, even if she's not the best at executing. I like how aware she is of the fact, like when she's screwing up, like when they're back at camp and Nasir confronts her about, hey, you voted for me. And then she's like, Evie, did I tell you to vote Nasir? I didn't tell you that, right? And Evie's like, nope, you told me exactly what to do. You told me exactly to vote Nasir. Like, go to the flashlight. And Heather's just like, oh, no.
Well,
I,
there's a lot of knocks on Heather, and we obviously don't know how well she knows the game, how big of a fan she was going into it.
We do. She said she's been applying for 20 years. Heather is a super fan of this game. She's a big fan.
Well, and that was the other thing that I didn't realize is, one of the random, million survivor groups out there that they didn't realize until like the season started airing. They're like, oh, Heather's here, and she's actually been a, member of this page for the past 3+ years.
Oh my God. I love it. I think so much of this is Heather being so excited for not really getting to play much the first 12 or so days winning immunity. I think if Luvu had lost a challenge, I think Heather is playing a very different game right now.
Well, yeah, and you see, it wasn't only that she wasn't playing, because Luvu didn't have to go to tribal council, but when there weren't reward episodes, like as soon as Luvu went up and they got to sit someone out, Heather was always almost the first person they were sitting out. So there were a lot of times where she legitimately didn't have to do anything for those first few days.
Yeah,
because she was sitting out of so many challenges.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it is like Heather just, it's that excitement. And I think also for her, like she said in this episode, realizing that she comes into the game with disadvantages from her age, like from being like the older woman of the group, from being that on a tribe of 6, nonetheless. She realizes all these like uphill battles she has to climb. And she also realizes from watching the show for 20 years, hey, I need to make a big move if I want to win. I don't want to be that player who like didn't make enough big moves and became the mother who sat there in third place and didn't get a vote. And I think she was realizing, oh crap, half the game is already done. I didn't get to do anything. And she's like, well, I can't use that as an excuse. I need to just do a lot now. And instead of waiting for the game to come to her, I think she went a little too early to go get it. And I think that's where we're seeing Heather being in a little bit of a pickle right now. But I respect so much the fight she has. And this episode, I think, was probably her best episode of the season, where it seemed so easy to get rid of her. And yeah, she wasn't going crazy, like planting seeds in everybody's head, but she did enough to get the target off of her back and convince somebody who had an idol to not play it and then vote them out.
Are we saying that I mean, I think she went along with it, and I will say it was probably her best episode, but I don't think she's the one that planted the seeds that
No.
ultimately led
I
to Nasir's
no, I
downfall.
just said she didn't plant the seeds, but I do give her credit for being a big part of it to convince Nasir that he shouldn't play the idol.
Well, I do think one of the things that she has going for her is we finally see probably who her number one is, which appears to be Erica. And I think that that's something that when you get down to the little, dwindling numbers, that having a pair of two, whether they're perceived that way or I guess not, that can ultimately have more influence on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said earlier, the value of having somebody in the game that you trust and having more people in the game that you trust that are on your side is so valuable. Like having that number one is valuable, and it's why I think Ricard and Shan are doing so well in the game, especially Shan, who pretty much has two people who are that number one for her, or at least feel that way, and not vice versa because they all only value Shan as their number one. Heather having Erica and vice versa, I think, is really good for both of them. My concern is they don't have really anybody else.
No, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
From what we know anyway.
Yeah. I just wish. But listen, I thought Heather had a really good episode. I think Ricard had the best um, episode of really anybody. But Nasir, just why didn't you play your idol, Nasir? Why? Oh, it would have been so nice to just see him play. Jeff, I've got something, and then be like, wait, Shan, Ricard, what were you trying to do? That would have, to me, been the most interesting scenario. But
I agree, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Nasir for right now.
and also, Nasir, the ultimate man of class. I think he just when he gets voted, he's like, you know what, good job, guys. And then he talks in his final words about Evie an amazing time, and he loved every moment of it. And I just want to say, obviously, nobody from production is listening to this, but please, if somebody knows anybody in production, tell them we want more Nasirs on the screen. This is the people we want playing the game. People who want to be there and love Survivor for what it is so much. Literally, that is Nasir, and that's why I love him so much.
And I think it's great that he was so, he was gracious. He didn't take it personally. He was just, he got me. And just think about how hard it is that, normally if you're voted out, you go, you do your final words, then you get taken to Ponderosa. But the fact that he didn't really have that time to take a second to be like, what the hell just happened? He's immediately just put on the jury. And while I do think it shows great of him or whatever, it just makes me think that it'd be hilarious if this had happened to like Sydney and just her disdain and body language had it was just, no, you don't get a second to yourself. Like, go sit over there and wait for the next tribal.
I mean, it was who? It was Jenna and Aaron who got that before. Just imagining somebody with, I can't believe Nasir with an idol just goes there and is like, okay. Like, I just can't imagine what's going through his head. I mean, I would hope that I'd be able to say to the players, like, you know what, you got me, good job. But in the moment, it's like, I just went home with an idol. And I'd be sitting on the jury, not even being able to listen to a word of what anybody else said. I would just be like, yep, I went home with an idol. Yep, I'm that guy. I said it was never gonna be. That would be me. And it's like, I can't believe it. But it almost makes sense that Nasir went home with an idol. I don't know.
Well,
right?
In some respect, maybe the fact that he went to the jury, he was more opening, to listening and not just stewing in it. But
yeah,
who knows? I know Tyson had said before, and obviously it was all pre-jury stage, but in Heroes versus Villains, he famously voted himself out. And then he had said that they didn't let him go to Ponderosa. They needed to wait for the next tribal. And so he's just like, I was extra pissed off because all I wanted to do was go eat, but they wouldn't take him there until James was eventually voted out.
Yeah, and he didn't even get to watch the tribal, which is amazing to think about. It's like, nope, you just have to sit here and wait and stew. Not, I can't say that without making a pun now. Stew in your sadness, but also just curious. What is it with the rewards this season? I'm sorry, they're just so out of left field.
I at least think this one makes sense.
Grilled cheese to stew, and I get it makes sense from like you're getting protein and all that good, but also just like I feel like you want things out there that are like everybody back home is like, yes, I would deliberately go and get that. And I almost, maybe it's just me. I'm not like, stew is good. I'm not going out of my way ever to get a chicken and beef stew or any kind of stew for that matter.
I think stew at least makes more sense, and because you're at least getting more protein from it, and it's at least something that we'd seen before. I can't ever remember where grilled cheese was the reward, but generally when it's stew, I think it's in the pre-merge stage where you have someone that's eating it while one tribe's eating it while the other is watching the other tribal
Yeah, I also wanted
live.
that. Where
But
was that?
I don't think you can do that in the post-merge though,
Oh, I think you
because you don't want.
can.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can, but I think if you start having that
The,
where people are looking over at the that other tribe that's waiting, that
I
looks and
guess.
things like that can be a little bit of a tell or change how the outcome might be.
Yeah, maybe, but you can also say, hey, it's your advantage for winning. But also just in the challenge, Jeff saying the words chicken and beef stew over and over and over and over again. I'm just like, Jeff, stop. We all know what the reward is. Stop saying those words.
I mean, to be fair, they could have just waited till a little bit after and had Xander do that plug and just
Yeah,
input that soundbite, because it seemed like he was more than willing to.
okay, but all right. Do we want to? Speaking as Andrew, you want to talk about the second tribal?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
this, to me, I almost think is Survivor being boxed into a corner of, all right, we said that like the winner of the challenge went to tribal second, because I think if Survivor had their way, they would have pulled the Sandra and Parvati and just flipped the order of these two. Because I thought the first vote was a lot more interesting than this one. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, this one was pretty straightforward. There was, unless Xander played one of his advantages, I really didn't see a scenario where Evie wasn't going to be voted out. Specifically, with one of the last things that we see is Danny going to Xander and pretty much being like, "Hey, I want to work with you, but it's got to be Evie tonight." I just didn't see. I don't think Deshawn can make that move and blindside Danny. And if Danny's not on board, it always seemed pretty straightforward to me.
Let me present you a theory I heard online. I don't know how much I buy into the theory, but I think the theory was that Deshawn was legitimately really considering turning on Liana, but then once he saw Nasir get voted out, he was like, no, I can't do it.
I've heard that too, but I don't think that really makes that much of a difference, because we've already seen Danny and Deshawn willing to turn on Nasir before. And to them, I would almost, because I get that they know that they've had a relationship with Nasir, but if you can tell what Nasir said, that Ricard and Shan were more of his top alliance, if they're able to see that, I don't see how that really has much to do with it.
I'm not sure if they do see that though, because I think Nasir, they also have the like deeper relationship with Nasir going back to Luvu. And I can say, I'm not sure if it was here, but I do think if I was at least thinking in my own shoes, if I was in a position where I think I know what the plan is for a group of people going to tribal, then I see one of my good allies going home, I'm maybe a little less likely, also maybe a little more likely to make a bigger move, especially when it's like taking out somebody who might be a little loyal to me, because hey, I'm my backup is down a little bit. Whereas like I thought I would have had Nasir to back me up. Now I don't.
I see. I guess for me, like I said, I don't think Deshawn can do that move without Danny, specifically in the spot that he's in right now, where he's already kind of at odds with Shan. You can see that, that kind of war is coming. That if he's already unsure if that's the way that he wants to go, what he can't do right now is alienate Danny, because he's going to need Danny.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, from the entertainment perspective, I obviously wish they pull maybe Evie and Xander pull the fast one and got Liana out. I think that would have been interesting. But one thing I want to posit to you is, do you think Xander could have used the extra vote here? Because I think this would have been the tribal where the extra vote would have been a lot more valuable than the first one.
I think obviously it would have been a lot more valuable, especially as we're understanding now that the extra vote is also good on the revote.
Yes, it is. Another
And
interesting thing.
I think it's something that if I understand, because I heard, a lot of the people say before that, oh, Xander should hold on to all that because either you have Deshawn or you don't. And so you want to save everything you have moving forward. My counter to that is just the fact that he can see, all right, Nasir was taken out. Nasir was someone that really wasn't working with. And you could kind of see Xander starting to build that relationship with Erica in the beginning of the episode where they had that one-on-one talk. So if he thinks that he can work with Erica, that automatically brings in Heather, and then him and Evie can join up with that and be 4-4, where I don't think he's in such a bad spot. So whether it was the vote, the vote's probably the one that you use, you want to hold on to that idol, but I do think he probably should have done something there.
I'm with you in wanting to keep the idol, but I also, this goes back to my point again, especially when you're not in a good position, you need allies. You flat out need them. Sure, you can have every advantage in the world. If you don't have any allies, you're not going very far. I think you can maybe get from, say, Final 6 to the end without any allies, maybe Final 7 if you're at least a physical beast like Xander. You're not getting from Final 10, or I guess in this case, technically, Final 9 down to the end with no allies.
I think one of the things that I'd also want to point out is there's obviously throughout the season, people have so many good things to say about Danny. He seems like a great person. People enjoy watching him. But I think one of the things that he gets knocked for a little bit is his social and strategic game, which I think a lot of those are fair. I don't know what he's done, but I feel like Danny has absolutely snowed Xander, because Xander keeps going back to Danny thinking that there's a little bit of hope. And I don't think there's any chance that Danny ever works with him specifically now.
I think Danny's played a really good social game for a large part of the game, getting everybody to at least talk to him and trust him and confide in him. My issue with Danny was I wish he at least said, you know what, I'm willing to take out Liana, or at least pretended a little bit more. Because once he told Xander that if Xander was, I don't want to say a bit more erratic, but if he valued keeping Evie more and maybe not as as forward thinking in that way, I think that would have been my red flag of, oh my god, I need to play the idol. However, if he plays the idol for Evie, say the votes are the same, he plays the idol for Evie, Liana's gone. Okay, that is one person that really wants him out gone. But does he have a shot with Danny and Deshawn? I almost doubt it. He almost has no shot with Danny and Deshawn at that point. He also has almost no shot with Shan. Those are three people you have alienated nearly completely.
Agreed, but what's different if he plays the extra vote? And it's essentially going to force, Danny could potentially stay loyal, but there's no way Deshawn keeps his vote, because Deshawn's, I think, a good enough player and realizes that, hey, it's a 50-50 shot. It's me or Danny. Like, I'm flipping my vote on the revote because I'm not risking going to rocks where either of those two go out. But I don't think by essentially playing your extra vote and strong arming them is necessarily going to get Danny to want to work with Xander either.
I don't know. So let's say Xander plays the extra vote there. Then it's 3 on Liana, 3 on Evie. At that point, we then revote. So it's Xander revotes twice. He puts 2. And then theoretically, it's Deshawn and Danny putting 2 on Evie. If you're saying
it gets to that, because I don't think Deshawn's saying, hey, I'm not willing to risk himself for Danny.
Well, I'm saying you're saying that at that point of, okay, then Xander gets his way and Liana's gone.
Agreed, but I guess what I'm asking is, what's the difference between the extra vote and the idol where it doesn't alienate Danny, where that makes him want to work with him in the future?
Let me put 2 things in there. One, the pure fact of the advantage. You keep an idol. You keep your idol, first of all. Second thing, with going to a revote, you need Deshawn to vote with you at that point. You need, or at least you say you need one of them to vote with you if it's going to happen that way. So if it happens that way, or one of them have to vote with you, maybe they're more mad at each other. And the one that votes with you, you can maybe pull them in, because let's say at this point, let's say Deshawn flips. Deshawn votes out Liana. Xander and Evie can be like, you know what? You voted with us. Thank you. Let's work together. Because Danny might as well just be pissed and say, you know what? You voted against Liana. You voted my girl out. Like, I'm done with you. That's an option. I don't know if he does that, but their relationship is at least strained a little bit. And for a player like Xander who's playing from the bottom, and I would say the same for Evie, and he even said it, I want people fighting. I want people who aren't getting along. And Deshawn and Danny right now are a big twosome that everybody can see get along really well. And if there's anything I can do to not even just split them up, but to get them thinking things against the other one and willing to go the other way, I want to capitalize on. And especially if it's Deshawn, I can say, hey, let's get Shan out. And I think maybe you can get him along with it.
I don't think that puts any type of wedge between Deshawn or Danny, because whether it's on the revote or after, I think he can simply say, like, hey, it was if we, myself, or if the two of them don't do this, it's you or I who's going. And we've been close this entire game. We've never heard them say, final three, but I think the closest we heard was final four. Like, we've talked about going final four together. And yes, we didn't want to get rid of Liana, but this was for the betterment of both of us, because I want both of us to get to that end stage where I think that's a rational enough argument where it's not you turned on Danny. It's I wanted to make sure that I'm still here and that you are as well, because if we don't do this, one of us is gone.
Yes, you can say that's an option, but at least there's a chance that there is a little bit of a rift created between Danny and Deshawn. And when they get back to camp, I think the storyline of, Xander just played his idol and saved Evie. And okay, Xander's still on the bottom and Evie's right along with him. And those two are right public enemy number 1 and 2, respectively. If we say, all right, Xander played his extra vote and Deshawn flipped on Liana, that also creates an even deeper rift between Shan and Deshawn. Even if, logically speaking, Shan, they both might be able to rationalize it if I get you had to. At this point, they are 17 days into a game where they are not at full mental capacity. They're not thinking fully logically all the time. I think that could really get a rift between Shan and Deshawn going even quicker, and that's all that Xander needs. Xander needs people going after one another, and that's not him quickly.
Yeah, and I get that there was a lot of people kind of bashing Xander, not bashing, but just not thinking that he was in a good spot at the beginning of the game, because he wasn't. And then he had that breakout merge episode and everyone's being like, oh, Xander, he's a lot smarter than what we all thought, which is absolutely correct. We've seen that on display. I think Xander's biggest issue is he's not creating those bonds, or at least doesn't have a good enough read on it that he thinks he does. And I think that's the error in his game he didn't realize that Evie was ever going to turn on him. He still keeps getting confused by Danny. And I think he just kind of turned to, it's more of an individual game way too early in the merge.
I think he is playing at the bottom where he is just flat, I need allies. I think he was smart to realize the minute Danny said, oh, I really want Evie on, he's at a point of, all right, you're not with me. So maybe you're not getting him out right away. But for Xander being in a bad position, I just think this biggest blunder of the episode was not doing more than hoping that Deshawn voted with him. If that was Deshawn or Danny voted with him, that was it seemed like his only play was really hoping and thinking, because he thought at a point, you know what? One of them or both of them are going to vote for him. We're going to take out Liana because it makes sense. Which, after maybe if Danny didn't say that to him and said, you know what, I'm with you, let's get rid of Liana, maybe I can understand that. But if Danny's straight up almost telling you, hey, I want Evie gone, sure, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I want Evie gone. That's one of, I think, Xander's biggest missteps in the game so far. It's something that he could have clearly seen and thought of, because he's smart enough to think about that and just didn't. I don't know.
So I have a question for you.
Go for it.
What if it's flat out Xander comes in the entire day, he's telling everyone at Travel, he's playing out, feeling like Evie's not going. I am playing the idol for her no matter what. Do you think that possibly works, or the fact that he already kind of threatened to do that on the first one, that maybe people don't buy it because you didn't do it the first time? But do you think them being only 5 people do you think that potentially gets someone to flip if he's the entire day, this is what I'm doing. I'm not losing Evie. You three figure it out amongst yourself.
I think he kind of was trying to do that, but he almost did like the half Murphy. He didn't go all the way through. I think he was pretty much saying, Evie's safe. I'm saving Evie. Evie's safe. I think if he had really gone harder with that, almost like you remember like Mike Holloway at Tribe was saying, Shireen's not going home. You all figure it out. I think if he did that and he maybe even said, you know what, like I'm voting. I think if he did that and said, you know what, I'm voting for one of you. I'm voting for Liana. The two of you figure it out now, okay? Or
I think he could have taken that to Danny and said, I get that you want Evie gone, but she's not going tonight. I am protecting her, and I agree. I do want to work with you. I'm willing to get rid of her maybe in the future, but right now I see the way the numbers are. I'm protecting her. You do me a favor tonight, or, you jump on board so I know that I can trust you, that you're going to put your vote the way you say it's going to go, and then we can figure out a new plan that works for both of us tomorrow.
Yeah, I think part of it was, like you said earlier, about he had tried it once and almost the exact same way too. He tried it once. They played him. They're all like, he's not doing this again. He's not. We fell for it once. We're not falling for it again. I think if he almost did everything, if he like pretty much, frankly, I think his best move might have almost been trying to almost break up Danny and Deshawn, saying, you know what, Liana and I don't really like each other, and I wouldn't say like each other, but from a strategic point of view, we're going after each other. We know that's happening. But you know what? I'm saving Evie. Evie is voting. I say she's voting for Liana. I don't know. Say she's voting for Liana. Send one of them home or something. All right, or else you're going home.
Or I mean, I'm sure at this point, we're only hearing the quotes and not like that. Just go to them and be like, hey, this girl has said she hates my face. Like, if someone came up to me and said, I hate Danny's face, and I hate you, I get on your back too. Like, just do me this favor.
Yeah, but I almost think he needs.
Like, I don't think that's the play to go. I think the way is I've heard the argument that it's just, it's like Charlie Brown with the football that Xander, didn't play it for the first time. But I also, because we've talked that he's a lot smarter than he thinks, I also do think that he realized as soon as Sydney played the shot in the dark and didn't get it, I think if Sydney got the shot in the dark and it, for whatever reason, would have been safe, I actually think he would have played it for Evie in that situation because it would have guaranteed someone else went home. But I think as soon as he realized that, hey, Sydney didn't cast a vote, I don't need to play my idol. I don't look at it necessarily that way, but it's also quite possible.
Yeah, I think the two routes Xander could have gone tonight were playing I don't want to say more conservative route, the more sneaky route of playing the extra vote and saying, you know what, trying to get somebody to get one of them to flip, because more than likely you do get one of them to flip because he's in no position to flip. He has immunity. And then at that point, and then he goes back to camp with the other with Danny and Deshawn. Either if they vote one of those two, mad at each other, or they're out of the game, frankly. And so he gets one of the three people he wants out of the game, no matter what. Or does the other move of saying, I'm going to save Evie, and like either say Evie's voting for somebody, I'm voting for one of the other people, and you all have to figure it out. Something to that effect. Maybe then you get a 1-1-1 tie. I don't know. Something to the effect of causing chaos and getting those three that are tight to at least scramble against each other. I think he needed that. And then play the idol and actually play the idol and go through with it, and then go back to camp. You don't have an idol. Say, you know what, guys, I don't have an idol. Everything that I said was going to happen did happen. I said flat out, I'm saving Evie. Evie's voting this way, and you all have to figure it out. And that's exactly what happened. I needed to split up Danny and Deshawn. Just say that.
Or he could have just strong-armed them in a way without using the idol, because I guess I do guess that you're thinking you didn't play the idol last time, you're not going to do it. If you're under that assumption that you're like, hey, he's not going to do it, which I understand. I think using that extra vote, I think you can do that instead, because that's more realistic that Xander would play an extra vote but hold on to the idol, because the idol gets him another round where he says, hey, me, my extra vote, and Evie, we are all going on one of you three. And
Yep.
so it's either you stick with us, or if not, we're going to go to rocks. You're presumably going to put your 3 on Evie. She's going to be safe. And then it's going to be whichever 2 of you didn't flip.
Exactly. I'm with you there. One of those 2 moves I think would have been great. And they also, to me, would have been a lot more entertaining than what we got. So I'm just like, Xander, come on. Because now I think Xander's in a position where he's almost done. Like, yeah, sure, he has an idol. He has an extra vote, but he doesn't have allies. He has almost nowhere to go. So I almost think he's done.
And as we've talked this out, I do think actually probably the extra vote route would have been the better route, because you can say, hey, I'm not using my idol because I want to be safe. But I promise you, going with the plan that you have now, Evie isn't going home. This is just an extra vote. Would I like to keep it? Yes. But that isn't ultimately what can save me in the future. The idol can. So, yeah, that's in my pocket. But if someone doesn't, I guess, kind of cave to us, one of you's still going home because it's not going to be Evie.
Yeah, to me, this ultimate was a case of Xander trying to be too cute. And when you're on the bottom, you can't be cute. You need to just get down to business and get someone out you need to get out, and keep the people in the game you need to keep in the game. And ultimately, if Xander gets voted out one of the next 2 votes, which I think he is, he's going to look at this moment and be like, you know what? I should have played something, and I should have used my position of having immunity more strongly than he actually did, because he didn't really use it. He just used it as, I'm safe, okay? I'm safe, and people are talking to me. That's good. It should have been, I'm safe, and you know what? I'm controlling this vote now.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to I think that Xander is a really good player. He's obviously, a physical person. I think for only being like 20 or in his early 20s, I think he's a lot smarter than, like we said, smarter than we thought. And I think his biggest downfall is his reads on people are just off. They're wrong.
Yeah. And I'm not saying
when it comes to the, I guess, the personal relationships anyway, because we've already mentioned, Danny this episode. We've mentioned that in the past, Evie, from all accounts, she was really playing him to make sure that Xander didn't play the idol. If it happened in the pre-merge, we saw that he was off on Tiffany when he kind of tried to come clean and say, she works with these children, so I'm sure it'll be fine. And I think his just reads on his personal relationships just are off. And I think that's what's hurting him the most, because I think the reason he doesn't play it is, once again, his reads off on Deshawn.
Mm-hmm. I think his reads are dead off, and I agree with you there. And the reason I'm saying, I think he's a very, very good and capable strategist in terms of getting certain moves done, but I don't think he's a good player in putting himself in long-term positions of safety, which I think is something you need in the game. He is good at, all right, I'm on the bottom. How can I survive the next one? Or how can I make a big flashy move? Like, this is what he's good at saying, all right, I'm here. I need to take a little bit of an interesting route to get to here. He can do that, but I don't think he's looking at, all right, now I've gotten to here. How do I get to point C? And so on. And how do I get myself into a position where I'm able to win the game? Because I think he's at a position now where it's just, all right, I just got to beast out from here. I have one tribal where I'm safe. I have to then, I think, win immunity. I believe it's 3 more times. So it's 8. He plays an idol 7, 6. Then play it 6, 7, 6, and 5. And then he makes fire and 4. That's his hope, I think. And it's not good. He's not getting very far, in my opinion. But
I guess another question I have for you is, so I know we don't always, like to go into exit interviews, and you can always take exit interviews with a grain of salt because it's so far after the game's over.
Sure.
But for the most part, no one's talking bad about him, but he's not getting, I guess, great feedback from the people that have been out specifically on the jury so far.
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe he's getting a slightly better edit because Jeff and CBS love the fact that he's the one that he's risking everything. He's going for these beware advantage, and he's kind of embodying what the show wants to have happen, that maybe he's getting a slightly more positive edit than what he really was perceived out there.
I almost think they got the edit pretty much like on the nose of it. I think they like him a lot, and I think a lot of the players in the game liked him, but did they, in my opinion, respect him as a player and as like a full-fledged player in the game? Not really. And I think that's where my concern with him is, oh, he's a nice guy and we like him and he's cool and he's like trying to be all strategic and that's fun and everything. But I don't think they took him seriously enough as a not as a threat, because he was definitely a threat in terms of making moves and being around, but as a threat to win. I almost think he was the threat to cause chaos more than the threat to win.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. And I think if you're not making, I don't know, like you'd have to think at this point his logic of going to the end is pretty much it's doing what you discussed, and it's pulling the Mike Holloway. And I don't know if Mike Holloway wins in a season now that he did then, for the simple fact that my biggest, I guess, criticism of Mike Holloway when he played it, and I do like him. I'm sure, you don't hear a ton of people say horrible things about it. At least maybe I missed it. But to me, what it ultimately comes down to is, and why I have Mike as more on the lower side of winners, is he always had all this power. And what he could never do was get people to make the move that he wanted. And it was clear that had he never not had safety, he was going home. And I just think if you can never, I guess, make your move happen, that's a strike against you.
Absolutely.
In terms of winning anyway.
Yeah, to me, the reason I almost said I didn't think a great player is I think it was Steve Moses and Big Brother who actually said this, a former winner. He said, if you have to win a competition to stay in the game, you're doing something wrong. And I think that's where Xander is at this point. If you can't stay in the game without an idol or advantage, you're doing something wrong. And I think that's where Xander is at very soon. So unless he pulls a Holloway or a Drieberg and winning immunities or finding more idols, he's in big trouble. But I do think Xander's a player that with a couple more years experience looking back on this could come back and really wreak some havoc. I think he is. And I think he's shown he's got pieces of being a very capable player. I just think he hasn't put it together yet fully.
Yeah, I think with having all those pieces, he's definitely seems to be getting more of a rooting interest for the fact, the past few episodes that I feel like you do hear about, not everyone, like he's the strong favorite. But between, people liking him, he's obviously a younger, fit, athletic guy. And the fact that he's taking all those risks when it comes to idols, I think that's a recipe that I'd imagine he'd be invited back in a future season.
I think so. And I think the fact that he's an underdog at the end of the day, it's so simple. He's the young, happy-go-lucky underdog that is trying to make big moves and is really excited to be here and all that. And I get it. And I think I would love to, if I was out there, I'd love to try to be the player like Xander. Obviously, I'm nowhere near as strong or as physically fit, but I do think I would be the player just trying to make moves. And that's where I would want to be. I don't think I would want to be in a better position maybe, but I could see myself being that type in a way. But actually, for Tribal Council, I didn't think it was that interesting. I'm actually really interested in how we've been talking about it. But can we talk about Evie for a minute? Can we talk about the person who actually went home here?
Absolutely. Love Evie.
Yes, I love Evie. And to me, I almost wished we saw Evie try to do a little bit more. It was almost the way they were playing too was relying on Deshawn and hoping that Deshawn was with them. And I don't know. I'm hoping it happened and we didn't see it. But to me, Evie, I know Evie was in a tough position and I know she was trying really, really hard to stay. I just wish I saw them be a bit more maybe creative and going to all three of them separately and being like, you know what, you're with me. Maybe I'm not with Xander or something to make.
What I'd be interested to see is what a conversation between just a one-on-one conversation between her and Danny looks like.
Yes.
Is that I'm curious to know. And I guess it would also tell us a lot about Danny is because Danny made it clear Evie's the one that needs to go. And I think that would tell us a lot about his gameplay if he kind of placated Evie in a conversation, or if he was just flat out more old school and then was like, hey, I get what you're saying, but you're the one I have to vote out tonight. And that's what I'd be interested in seeing.
I would have been interested to see that as well. But I love Evie as a character. They were so entertaining to watch. I almost I wanted a little bit more of that fight at the end, like you said. And I think if they did have the conversation, I think it was Danny just being like, you know what? I think it was him playing a little bit of more of the old school game of no, I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. And that I think is why they probably didn't show it in the edit, because that would have just been like, all right, cut and dry, Evie's done. Uh,
or even just what the conversation
yeah,
with Liana would have been like if they would have kind of said, "Hey, like, is there a way that we can get back together?" But no,
yeah, I almost would have.
I
I'm
don't know.
also interested to see what would have happened if Xander didn't win immunity. Where Evie tries to go from there, if they're trying to deviate from Xander, or is it just no, I'm with Xander and hoping that he plays the idol for me, or hoping that Deshawn votes with me?
I think it makes it a lot more interesting if Xander doesn't win because you'd have to think at that point the idol's definitely being played
Yep.
and how that would all shake out. Because I think that completely changes all conversations we heard because it's simply going to go back and forth between. I think specifically Deshawn is the one that I'd be curious to see what he does
Mm-hmm.
because he seems to be like
Well,
one of the better players that's in that group. And
yeah.
if he goes, hey, we got to take Xander out or at least put our votes on them, or maybe they decide that it's Evie. But I think he's self-aware enough and he doesn't want to go out by an idol being played
Mm-hmm.
that I think that changes Deshawn's thought process moving
It's
forward.
very interesting, and also at that point, Deshawn likely has me, so that's interesting.
Oh,
One
yeah, that's
thing,
true. Deshawn would
yes,
have won.
one thing that's interesting though, is Evie right before the vote makes an analogy to like a roller coaster. It's like this travels like as if you're at the top of a roller coaster, and you have that feeling like you're gonna die, and then the sad reality is that someone is actually gonna die. She stole that right from Ryan Ulrich in season 35. I caught that. I was like, wait a minute, who said that? I've heard that before. And as I watched it, I'm like, that was Ryan. And I just found that so funny that the super fan stole the analogy and did give him credit. I don't know why I found that funny, but I did.
Well, I personally liked Ryan, but I think Evie's probably the more memorable character. So if
Oh,
you're looking back on it, she's the one that's going to get credit for it. So
yeah, maybe in
good for
most
her.
people's eyes, I'm probably gonna remember Ryan for it, just saying him. But I always wish Evie gave him a little bit of credit there. Like, can the guy catch a break? But you know what? That was a good line. And then we get the vote. It's 3-2, pretty cut and dry. But then we get Evie's final words, which I just first talked about, like how they got her, how she was already on borrowed time, she had a blast, and then a line that I wrote. If you don't mind, I'd like to read it.
Of course.
She says, "Quote: Any queer kids out there, be yourself. You're amazing. Love yourself." And it really, to me, culminated the story of Evie so well, and it just warmed my heart because you saw that the whole time, the way Evie was out there being themselves the entire time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, and I hope, and I'm willing to bet there was some kid out there that felt a little bit more comfortable about themselves from that, and it just made, like, it was just so nice to see. And it wasn't like Evie just was there being herself and played the game like a badass, and was like making deals, making allies, and nobody treated them any differently because of her sexuality or because of her queerness, as she says. And she was just fully herself, and they said in post game, like, it was not. I would have regretted not being out there as my full self. Ricard has said the same thing, and it was just it ultimately warmed my heart. I don't know.
I know it was beautiful final words by Evie. And all that I'll say is I know it's probably speaking, but I've seen, comments on the, toxic Facebook groups and
Oh
stuff like
God,
that.
no.
But the people that are just like, well, why does it have to be specific and not all kids? Or, they're upset about the person of colors or something. If you're one of those people that gets offended by any of those things that have been said the past few
Yeah.
episodes,
Oh my
you
God.
don't get it. You don't get it. And
You
you probably never will.
No, and it stems from a place of when you are LGBT, you're different. It's about being that person who is different, who doesn't fit in all the time, who and to those people who don't get it, you're also probably more than likely part of the reason that people feel the need to come out of a closet and be in a closet in the first place, and all those
Mhm.
things. And I don't know, and I hope we get to talk to Evie post game, because they're the best. I mean, it was beautiful, and their whole game was beautiful. And I could say the same about Nasir. Nasir and Evie both. We lost two people who really were there and represented something a lot bigger than themselves, which is so hard to do. And they did it both so well. And the only thing I'm sad about is that they're both not in the game further.
Yeah, it's obviously they are, two characters and two people that a lot of people were rooting for. And I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever to see one or probably both in the future. And I think that's great. And I think that's, going back to the people that, bash this season, I also think it says something for the fact that you can lose two great characters like Evie and Nasir, and there's still a lot of good people left on the cast, that it just shows how good of a casting job CBS got it right on this one.
They did absolutely get it right. And I mean, this episode sucked because, you know what, I may have liked Evie and Nasir a little bit more than a lot of other people in the game, but I love everybody else left in the game. That final 8 is fantastic. I just hope from a gameplay perspective, it breaks up a little bit more. That's the hope. And that's why I didn't maybe love the episode as a whole as much as most people did. But just, there's so many good moments from this. And the fact that we're able to talk about both of these votes in a really interesting way is awesome.
And especially with Evie, I wouldn't be surprised if you had in the beginning of the season, it was JD who was saying, he wanted to be out there. It was because of, like the Aussies and the Woos and people like that. And, I'm sure we'll have people that are saying about that as JD down the line, but I would not be surprised, in 10 seasons or whatever it may be, someone that came on that it was like, I watched Evie, and from watching Evie play, that's what inspired me to apply and really showed me that I can do this too.
Yeah. I think we've seen a lot of that. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it from both of these people, for so many people on this cast, them inspiring kids and adults to ultimately just be themselves more and to be comfortable with who they are and feel that love that they deserve. And it's all just beautiful. All right. And with that said, I can talk about how much I love these people all day, but I'm not going to. Before we get to the ratings to talk about next episode, is there anything you want to add here, Dan, before we take a little bit of a break?
I think I'm good until we get to, I have a bunch, say a bunch, but at least a few more things to say in the ratings. But I think we did a pretty good job kind of covering most things in the episode.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right, we will be back in a couple minutes after a word from our sponsors.
Good deal. Ho, 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 gentlemen! The holidays have come early here at Manscaped, the leading men's hygiene brand. Manscaped just launched new products, including their ultra new, ultra premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give yourself or someone who needs it the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use promo code SURVIVOR for 20% off and free shipping.
Jingle balls to the walls. Fellas, listen up. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past, and it's possible you have Santa's beard in your pants. Could be Matt Bischoff's. It's time to leave your significant other some cookies and milk at the bottom of your chimney. I am talking about Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Oh, now, I had a lot of sex when I got back from my last appearance. I literally had sex 8 times in 12 hours. And, I did some damage down there, fellas. I did some serious damage. I had to call my doctor. There was swelling. There was everything else. It was bad. But you know what wasn't bad? My balls, because I shaved them with Manscaped. Oh, there was the lighting at the top of the tree, but the bottom of the tree looked perfect.
Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the signature Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to reduce cuts on your nuts. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It's like a gift to your partner with less mess. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant, moisturizer, and toner. It's time to keep your North Pole feeling and smelling fresh.
This hygiene bundle will also come with a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers. God bless it. I needed and used that this week. I promise you. The perfect package for your perfect package. Manscaped is going beyond the groin with their new ultra premium body wash. It's infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep your skin feeling clean, nice, and moisturized.
They also just launched their new 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, which has key ingredients with benefits that include hydrating, nourishing, conditioning the scalp, and strengthening your hair at the same time. 'Tis the season to load up on Manscaped products. So get yourself, your dad, your brother, your friends, your neighbor, the best gift of all, the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Reality NSFW listeners get 20% off and free shipping with the code SURVIVOR at manscaped.com. Every guy out there needs to add Manscaped to their wish list this holiday season.
And this is Santa Claus talking to you once again. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code SURVIVOR at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use promo code SURVIVOR. Clean up your nuts and make Santa proud this year.
We're all trying to eat better, but healthy breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff. And it's amazing as a midnight snack right before bed.
0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. That's only 140 calories per serving.
It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And build your own box. Available flavors to build your very own custom bundle are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and my favorite, maple waffle. Now, Magic Spoon recently brought back their 2 super popular flavors, cookies and cream and maple waffle. Thank goodness. But they're back permanently. And when these flavors were first introduced for a limited time, they sold out extremely quickly. Now, I'm here to let you know you can get them again or try them for the first time. Why? Because they're delicious and indulgent.
Johnny, Magic Spoon has so many great flavors that I really enjoy, and even my kids enjoy them. We have the cocoa, fruity frosted, peanut butter. All these are really great combinations. They enjoy waking up in the morning and getting some Magic Spoon right off to start their day great before they head off to school. I think everybody listening should give Magic Spoon a try, or if you've tried them already, it's time to reorder. Let's get you some more Magic Spoon and get your day started right.
Hey, when I finish a podcast late at night, the first thing I'm thinking is not sleep. It's let me grab a delicious bowl of Magic Spoon before I go to bed.
So go to magicspoon.com/survivor to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code SURVIVOR at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/survivor and use the code SURVIVOR to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this podcast.
All right, and after once again learning about the beauties of cereal and razors, are you ready, Dan, to rate these final 8 people that we have left in the game?
Absolutely.
All right.
I think I'm going to have a little bit different ratings than the last time we did this.
I think I am too. I think I'm going to have a lot different ratings than I did last week, and you'll all see. I may have to make some mulligans once again. But all right, let's do this.
Like I know I told you the last time we did this, I had said, I could see Tiffany being a dark horse to win, and then she immediately got voted out.
You know what?
I definitely caught a lot of shit for that.
I was not going to bury.
Friends, but
I was not going to bury you, but you buried yourself. So you know what? Good on you. But
I will say you have Erica first up on the screen. I am sticking by my prediction that I said on the last one that I could see her winning a fire making challenge. So If not, we can bury me again, and I'm completely fine with that. But
I mean, I don't think you're burying yourself with that. With saying that you could see Erica winning a fire making challenge unless Erica gets to fire making and literally says, "I don't know how to make fire. I've never made fire in my life." That's the only way you get buried. But I split the people up this week based on the two groups that went to tribal. So starting with Erica, what's your rating of her, Dan?
So Erica, I wanted to put her higher, but I have her at a 5, simply for the fact that for whatever reason, we really don't know what happened or we didn't see it. It seems to be the person that this episode that Shan really wanted to get out. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whoever fans you are of, unfortunately, if you're a fan of Erica, most times at this point in this season, if Shan wants you out, we've seen her eventually get her way.
We have. I'm a little higher on Erica. I gave her a 6 for the reasons of, Shanna said she wants her out, but I don't know how much everybody else does. I think Erica's in a good spot, a relatively good spot in terms of not going home right now. Can Erica win the game? She's my dark horse. I'll say that. She's the low woman on the totem pole in terms of people I think can win, but I think she needs to make a bigger move if she wants to get there. And I also think needs more allies besides Heather. But she's in that ground. She's in between the ground of can win the game if she makes it and can also make it to the end. So that's why I have Erica at a 6, because I also just don't think. And good on her pulling immunity.
Yeah, it was great for her because it seems like that definitely saved her. I don't know if we still see the Nasir flip if Erica's still there. Maybe we do, but who knows?
Maybe.
But I do think she has a higher upside, at least of making it further. I think if she can continue to last another round or two, I'm not saying she could win. I mean, you make it to the end, you obviously, you have somewhat of a shot, well, depending upon who you are. But I could see her making a run especially if she can outlast Shan.
Yep. I'm with you there. Can she outlast Shan? I don't know, but we shall see. I think there's a lot more than meets the eye there, Erica. All right, let's talk about her number 1. The person that I gave a 1-2 last week.
The previous week, I think I gave her a 2. So
yeah, I'll put it this way. I wasn't right. I said Heather was dead to rights and Shirley going home. But you know what? I didn't believe Nasir could honestly fumble this as bad as he did. But you know what? Kudos on Heather for bouncing back. I will give her all the credit in the world for that. She, like I said earlier, she did some pretty good acting. The fact that she survived a vote where she was one of the only people in the vote that didn't actually was the only person that didn't have an advantage or immunity. Good on her for that. But I'm saying it before and I'll say it again. She's not winning this game. It's just there's no path I can see where she gets to the end of the game and wins. She gets to the end maybe as a GOAT at this point. I can't see it, unfortunately, and I wish I could say more. She's not the best player in the world. I bumped her up to a 3 because I think she's in a position now where the target's a little bit off of her back. And mostly because we're at a point now where it's final 8. People are like, crap, I need to make bigger moves than Heather to get to the end. But we'll see. Heather's, that's why she's at a 3 and not any higher or lower.
So one quick question for you. When you're coming up with your ratings, how much do you base it upon? Are they going to survive, the next few tribal councils versus their ultimate, path or chance of winning?
The path or chance
further.
The chance of winning is a lot higher for me because if I'm looking at a rating of a player, they're that good based on the shot they have to win. And to me, the fact that she has almost no shot to win means she's not a very good player in my eyes.
So I'm going to go 1 higher than you did. I'm going to give her a 4.
Wow. Okay.
For the simple fact that, I don't know, at this point, I'm not going to be shocked if she finds herself in the final 3 at this point.
Yep.
I think she may have, especially because if they do another easy vote, it seems like the person that Shan wants was the person we just talked about in Erica. And so I think once you make it into the final 7, I don't think people are everyone's going to want to take her. I think she makes it to the end. She obviously still has an uphill battle to win. But I'm not going to say it's a 0% shot, is all I'm going to say. And I'm not saying it's high either. This is by no means a bold prediction that I'm looking to get crucified for later.
Nope, you're not.
But I'm going to have her at a 4.
Okay, to me, Heather has an uphill battle, and Heather doesn't have a 0% chance of winning, but she has a 0.1% chance of winning out of the 8 people left in the game. Everybody else, I can at least make an argument and maybe a scenario where if they get to the end with these people, that means they had to do this to get to the end. I see nothing with Heather, and I'm sorry. Also, I'm reading into the edit. Your winner is not going to be invisible for the entire pre-merger of the game. I don't care if they wouldn't go to a tribal. They're not going to be this invisible. Heather's not winning, and I gave her the 3 almost for how she played this episode. I'm wavering between going down to a 2, honestly, but you know what? I'm going down to a 2. She can't win the game in my eyes. I can't give her more than a 2 for not being able to win. But
sticking with the 4.
All right, but let's go to the person who other hot take. I think is almost in the best position to win the game right now.
Agreed.
And that's Ricard. And I was not saying that for a while. And having somebody who doesn't have as many allies as Shan and does not have as many advantages as Shan. I'm surprised I'm saying this, but this is the week where I'm saying it. Ricard, to me, made a good move for his game. I don't love the way he went about it still. I still think him being too combative with Shan may bite him in the ass. And if it does, I can look back to every single time Ricard was trying to get his way and presented good arguments, but you need to know how to connect with everybody at the level they're at right then and there. And I think that's Ricard's biggest flaw in the game. Other than that, I am hoping he's able to scoop up Eric and Heather, work with them. He made a good move here. He took somebody who was vulnerable, kept them safe. It looks like he's going to be able to use them, and I think he can get further because he still is at the bottom of the alliance with Danny and Deshawn, Liana and Shan, but I think he's still there. And I also think with Shan also not having a great relationship with Deshawn, I'm hoping and thinking that if he wants to make a move against Shan, he uses Deshawn to do it. Because I think if he does Shan's dirty work and gets Deshawn out for him, he's screwed. But that's why I'm at an 8 for Ricard.
So I am also at an 8 for Ricard, but for different reasons than you have.
All right.
I think so. For the longest time, I'd still almost be kind of surprised if we didn't see that fight between Shan and Ricard, where one of them's going to try to get out the other, or maybe both at the same time. Maybe it's a blind. However, it's done.
Yeah.
From everything that we've seen, I just can't see a situation where they're both sitting at the end. And I said before in the past, I think one of the things that would hurt him and also would have hurt Shan at the time was the fact that I was afraid that when they went after each other, it was going to be too early. Mm-hmm. I think one of the best things for him is that Shan's new feud, as from what we've seen, seems to be Deshawn, which I think puts him in a perfect spot that if they can work together to kind of get rid of Deshawn, whether it happens or not, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I think is what that does is that if him and Shan's side is able to come out on top on that vote, whatever it may be, I think it's perfect where then it's late enough in the game. He can get Shan out, do it late enough where he's not the biggest threat and gone immediately.
Yep.
And I think of all the people, has one of the best, in my mind anyways, path laid out to potentially get to the end.
Yes. I think he's the one where the pasture is the greenest on the other side, I would say, maybe with the exception of Shan. The issue is he has to jump over a really tall fence to get there in the name of Shan. And he has to do that very delicately. Also, the fact is that that final 7 is approaching, and that final 7 vote, as we both know, is one of the most critical votes every single season. At least I would say even these 2 votes, because final 8 in Winners at War, we had Tony making the move of trying to get out not trying it, and he succeeded getting out Sophie with an idol. Don't know if Ricard's going to try that here, but I do think he almost needs to at least disarm Shan a little bit here. Maybe get her to play the idol, or even if not, get her target a little bit higher or something, and then in final 7, if Deshawn's still in the game, grab Deshawn, grab Erica, grab Heather, and say, let's go.
Well, and that's what even it could work to his benefit. Like I said, that if Shan and Deshawn go after each other, maybe there's a chance Shan has to use an idol to protect herself there, which then leaves her vulnerable for, Ricard to give her the whole knife in the back right after she thinks that she's safe and she made it.
He has to, but I also think the fact that Deshawn needs to be in the game for that to happen. I really think he needs Deshawn.
It's possible. It's possible.
I
think what they could do here is, I guess, rather than going after Deshawn, is they could potentially go and say, hey, let's get Danny to disarm Deshawn, and then Ricard makes the flip, because Deshawn's going to be the most mad at Shan at that point. Like, he may not like Ricard, but I think Deshawn's a smart enough game player that if Ricard would approach him and say, hey, now it's time to get payback, let's go, that I think they're both strategic and smart enough to go for that plan.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. I like that idea a lot. Let's see if he executes it. I also like you taking my idea earlier. Well done with that. Of him trying to use Deshawn to get out Shan. Just wanted to put that out there. All right. Are you ready to talk about his partner in crime for a lot of the game?
Yep.
Let's do it. That is good old Shan. Why don't you start with Shan?
So I'm nervous for her. I think, like myself, she was your winner pick.
She was, yes.
And she had such a great pre-merge. And then she's looked a little bit shaky the past few episodes. And I'm not talking that looks shaky that people are upset with her because she's a pastor. I'm not looking at that at all. The things that I'm looking at is, what are we seeing on screen? And I feel like since the merge, you still see the good in Shan, but you see these small mistakes that weren't popping up in the pre-merge. And so I can't quit her. She was my winner pick. I'm not willing to jump off the ship quite yet. I'm going to have her at a 7 for the simple fact that she still does have that idol in her pocket. And if she is able to kind of defeat Deshawn or whatever you want to call it for that side, I also wouldn't be surprised if she then knew that she had to get out Ricard. I think I'd like Ricard's chances of potentially seeing it and doing that first. But we've seen her also be so smart and good with people. I'm not going to say she couldn't do it either. So I'm going to have her at a 7.
Okay. I am keeping Shan at an 8, actually. I do think Ricard's in a slightly better position. So if I was doing decimals, it'd be like 8.1 to 8. But the reason I say this with Shan, we've talked about the downsides, and I think they've shown that a lot on the episode. I think it could be almost just to spin us around and be like, you know what, Shan's not a perfect player, but Shan is still getting her way every single vote. She's getting exactly what she wants, pretty much. This is the only vote where I can even think of that she didn't get down to the detail what she wanted, and she still is able to take a lot of credit for it and get out somebody who isn't going to hold it against her and Nasir on the jury. So that's also well done. The bad, as we know, she's sometimes not the best at really letting other people win battles. She's like, I need to win everything, and I get where she's coming from in terms of just like worried about losing that control, because she has that roadmap planned out beautifully. And the fact that I would say both her and Ricard didn't really make that many mistakes until they started fighting with each other. I could say that. But ultimately, the reason I'm keeping her at 8, 1, she's got an idol. 2, if I believe in anybody in the game to get out of a sticky situation, it's the person who's had to control the whole game. And I believe Shan is more than capable of it. And I would bet a lot right now. I would bet a lot of money that the winner of this game is either Shan or Ricard. And it's really going to be who takes out each other first. But I honestly think Shan's best position is not to be as aggressive. I think it's almost to let Ricard try. And then once she finds out Ricard is trying, because I think somebody could at least tell her, then she's just like, no, we need him gone. Send him out. And like she has that power that Ricard doesn't have yet. So that's the upside for Shan, and that's why I'm keeping her at an 8. But
we still don't know the overall story that the season's trying to tell us, because
we don't.
I think if you had to pick, one person that, is the main character of the season, it's Shan. And sometimes that is the winner. Sometimes they're not. They're taken out early. And it kind of all depends. But even though like kind of stating that, we've kind of seen some of her mistakes, it doesn't mean that she isn't going to correct some of them in the future.
Nope.
And I mean, we've seen very few perfect games of Survivor. And I'm not talking, where they never get a vote and, they get all votes in the end. But I mean, like a perfectly played game. Some people will say Tony last season, and, you could say, maybe other arguments would be Kim.
Yeah.
But if that's what you're putting, I don't know if anyone else has necessarily played a perfect game of Survivor. And so just because she has, some of those setbacks or flaws doesn't mean that she's not going to win.
Nope. I'm with you there on all of that. I think nobody has played a perfect game this season, or no one's played even close to a perfect game. I think if you said overall who has played the best game this season, I think the answer is still Shan. But if you're asking me right now to say who has the best chance of winning the game, and this is also me reading the edit, I think the fact that the show is trying to paint Shan as more of a villain than they are Ricard, the fact that we got the scene today now about Ricard being hard of hearing and not earlier in the game, I think they're setting up Shan's downfall a little bit more than they are setting up Ricard's. So that's where I'm leaning towards Ricard winning for the first time I think all season. I can fully say that. But if Ricard doesn't win, I'm willing to bet a lot it's Shan, and Shan would be a very, very good winner in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Let's move on to the other group. They didn't really name them, so it's hard to describe. But we start with Danny on that group. Why don't you start with Danny? Because there's not much.
So I'm conflicted with Danny. I'm worried about Danny next episode. For the simple fact that, and I mean, obviously you can never really tell much from the previews, but you see that Ricard and Deshawn are kind of the two names thrown out, which to me automatically thinks that, well, Deshawn and Ricard are probably both safe. And that's where it makes me fear that potentially they go after Danny, or that's who they put their votes on, and maybe Shan plays an idol, or maybe they swing, however it's done. He's still very well liked. I'm debating between two numbers right now.
What are they?
A 6 and a 7.
Okay.
I'm going to have him at a 6 for the simple fact that I think Danny, I wouldn't be surprised if Danny's in the finale, but from what we've seen, I struggle to see his path at winning.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll stick with a 6. Your turn. Go ahead.
You can change it later. Don't worry. I was vacillating between a 5 and a 6, actually. I had Danny at a 7 last week. His time's starting to run out, in my opinion. I've believed in him, and I think he's very capable socially. I still think he's maybe the best player socially on this entire cast. I think I can still say that. The fact that he's still a beast physically, hasn't won anything yet. But again, he's running out of time. We're down to 8 people now. He not only doesn't have a move on his mantelpiece, he doesn't have any control. I don't think he's in with the power players, but I don't think he's the one able to decide anything at this point. So I think maybe I'm giving him a 6 out of generosity, but at this point, he's almost like Erica, that dark horse to me, but I think you almost take him out before you do her. I'm actually going to go with a 5. I'm going to go with a 5 for that.
I think I said it the last time we did this. My biggest fear with Danny is just that he's going to get picked off because they know that him and Deshawn are such a type 2. And if you don't want to take the shot at Deshawn, like we talked about it before, if, Ricard knows that he needs to use Deshawn, well, let's weaken Deshawn. Let's take out his number 1, which will get him kind of more eager to play erratic.
Yep.
That could be Danny. I don't know. It's Like I
don't know.
said, I could see him going next episode. I could see him being in the finale somewhere, but I don't think I can give him higher than a 6 right now.
Yeah, part of the reason I'm dropping him, I just really didn't like that move, telling Xander basically, I want Evie gone again. It should, just because it didn't backfire on him doesn't mean it wasn't a bad move, and for all intents and purposes, it really should have backfired, I think.
Well, and from what we've seen, because they had the first episode together at Shipwheel Island, we saw at the merge that him and Xander had a lot of conversations. I think it would have been a really good avenue to keep that door more open with Xander, where Xander kind of keeps banking that he has Danny, and it seems like Danny isn't interested. But I think he'd be better off because then he'd have someone else that he could kind of make his move with, or something along those lines.
I'm really with you there on a lot of it. So yeah, let's talk about his right hand man. That is good old Deshawn, and let me start with him.
Go for it.
I'm done. I'm at a 6. I was at a 6 last week, and I think I'm still there for now. He's still very capable socially. I think the fact that him and Shan can't get along, still they're kissing and making up all the time, is not good for him. The fact that Shan has him on, that the arguably the most powerful player in the game isn't not only not fighting to keep you in the game, is probably willing to let you go and may actually be targeting you very soon. That's not good. The other thing is, Danny is tight with him. Who else is, though? Who else is really fighting for Deshawn? Liana's going to go with what Shan wants. She's more loyal to Shan than she is to Deshawn. And everybody else, I think, realizes how good of a player he is. The only reason I think he has a 6 is because he is a player that I think if he gets to the end can win the game, and has shown that he is really, really smart and still very likable. But other than, I'm nervous for him. I'm also vacillating between a 5 and a 6 for him, but I'm at a 6 for now. Why don't you go ahead, Dan?
I'm also nervous for him. The thing that I guess will point out some things that's in his favor, because I have him at a 7.
Okay.
Which probably seems high, but I'm sticking by it. And because I think one of his advantages he does have over Shan, I don't think Erica will ever vote with Shan. Erica will work with Deshawn, from what we know. And I think that gives him another avenue that if they don't take the shot at him, I don't think, like, say, like I kind of keep saying, if they get Danny, I don't think Deshawn's dead. I think he still has some other people that he can call on, because he's still going to be closer to, at least, than Shan, you'd think, with Erica and potentially Heather. The only thing that makes it wild is if Ricard built up goodwill with them during the last vote. As much as, Xander could still, it's been proven time and time again that he can't really work with them. I could see Xander more going to that side than the Shan and Ricard side, because I feel like they keep trying to trick him and get him out. And he's at least had more of an open dialogue with Danny and Deshawn. So I think that if you take the shot at that side, I think you better hit Deshawn, because if you don't, I think he still has a lot of chances to go. Plus, he's not looking, as like the athletic, great, I guess, specimen that you look at Danny or maybe even Xander to some point. But you saw him last challenge. I'm not going to be surprised to see him pick up an immunity win or two. I'm just not counting him out yet. So I have him, for all those reasons, I have him at a 7.
That's fair that I'm not counting him out. My one thing is I don't know if Xander's very much willing to work with him, because it almost seems like at this point, Liana, Danny, and Deshawn are the people that like just won't work with him. And I think them being at this little tribal with Xander is just more ammo for him of, you know what, no, I'm not working with you. I thought I had you and I didn't. I don't know how likely he is to work with Shan and Ricard either, which makes his options very limited.
Well, that was the only thing I was going to point out, was who can he work with? Because
I don't know. I think it's Erica
and Heather, maybe, but
Erica. Yeah, it's Erica, Heather, and hoping that I don't know. Maybe Deshawn, if you want to say Deshawn, but I don't know. But we'll get to Xander in a minute. Let's first get to his arch nemesis at this point, which is very funny to me.
Hates his face.
And Liana, she hates his face. I don't hate yours, Dan. Why don't you start with Liana?
I'm conflicted. Once again, I feel like I have been a lot this week.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going anytime, at least not this next episode.
Oh.
I don't think she's going next episode. Maybe she could, but my guess would be that she's not. My biggest issue with her is that so whenever that split happens between Deshawn and Shan, so the Danny Deshawn side and the Shan Ricard side, I don't know what her path is at winning. Because I think if she goes either of those sides, she almost needs all four of them out, or at least Deshawn, Ricard, and Shan all out in order to win.
Yep.
And I don't see how that happens. Just from what I have her at a 5.
Okay.
But I just think she has a rough path moving forward. And I don't like, from her point, that she still has the sole focus of getting out Xander. And I'd like to see her to be able to move off from that and not have that be all I want in this game is to get out Xander.
Yep. All right. I'm at a 4 for Liana. She, in my opinion, is not a dark horse to win. I think she's a dark horse to go home next, actually, because I think the next vote is almost a just get to final 7 vote instead of it really being like the focus of it's a final 8 vote. We need to get somebody big out here. I think this is the vote after the dust has settled, per se. It's like, let's just get somebody out that, like, all right, isn't too worrying. I think it could be an easy argument for a lot of people. All right, let's get rid of somebody close to Shan. Shan, you've been in the power position too long. Let's get rid of somebody. Let's get rid of one of your sheep and maybe your most loyal sheep. And Liana, I think she's ultimately way too loyal to Shan. I think that's going to be her downfall. And she's not threatening, which keeps her in the game a little bit longer. Is she winning the game? I think she has a better shot to win the game than Heather, and and Xander, based on the fact that I don't think Xander's making it very far either. Other than that, she's not in a good position to win in my eyes, unfortunately. So,
my only, I guess, counterpoint to her going out next is, so you'd have to think now for the most part they're probably down to 24-hour cycles. I mean, I guess maybe we have 1 or 2 more where they potentially do reward and.
I almost think they're down to 2-day cycles at this point, because what are we at, day 17?
So they have 9 days left with 8 people. I guess you may still have it.
I think you do I think you do like a 2-day cycle here, maybe one more 2-day after that, and then you're down to 1 day.
But I guess it's possible, but it's hard to see that Danny and Deshawn would try to get her out next if they weren't willing to just do it right there.
I don't think they're trying to get her out next, but I also think, I think Deshawn is a little more willing to try, and I think Danny's a little more likely to go along with it. However, I don't know if they're willing to try, but I think they might be willing to say, you know what, if the outsiders of Erica, Heather, and Xander say and they pitch, can we please get out Liana? I think she's the most agreeable one that she's the most expendable to that majority, in my opinion. At this point, even more than Ricard, just for her loyalty to Shan alone and the fact that they almost are certain she doesn't have any power in the game. So that's why I'm at a 4 with her. But can she go up? Sure. She's shown me this season that she's a very capable player and very, very, very smart. But we'll see. All right. Let's go to the person I'm probably most disappointed in.
Like that.
Yeah, last but not least,
mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, as Jeff said, this episode we're talking about Xander. Don't know why he loves him so much, but he does.
I know why Jeff loves him so much.
I mean, yeah,
Alex, you do too.
Oh, I know. I'm joking. Of course, he's the alpha male underdog. That's Jeff's favorite player. That's the one that Jeff wants to win the game every single time. He's just a bit younger of that. He's a bit younger than the person Jeff normally likes. However, he's basically that person this season. I'm going one higher than Heather. I'm giving him a 3. He fumbled this episode. He flat out he won immunity and he was safe. So the only good thing is that he still has an idol game, but I'm giving somebody with an idol a 3, and he has a 3 just because he has that idol. And that he's physically good at the challenges. So there's a small shot in hell that he can win out or find another idol. So sure, is it possible for him to win 3 challenges and find another idol? Maybe. But I think he had a big chance here with a group of 5 to be a power player, and I think he almost thought, I won immunity, so everybody's going to come to me, and I'm like by default the power player. And they're like, the players in the game are like, no. If you're not taking power away from us, we're going to control this vote. And they did, and they played him flat out like a fiddle. So I think he can get to the. Can he get to the end? Maybe. Can he win the game if he gets to the end? Sure, but he has to do a lot to get to the end, and I also don't think if he gets to the end, he'd have much agency in that scenario. He already has one person on the jury. I don't think Leon almost ever votes for him, based on the fact that she's wanted him out the whole game and doesn't see how good of a player he is. The others, I don't know. Like we've said, players come out of the game and they think of Xander as like the fun, goofy, like young and experienced, like naive guy who, he made some cool moves, but he was more flashy than anything. I also think he's probably gone very, very soon. If he makes it more than 3 votes, I'm a little surprised. So that's why he's at a 3 for me.
See a path to him going a little bit further, and it's simply, I don't know if once he saw Evie get voted out, if he did a prayer, if he did a rain dance, or whatever it may be.
That's his hope.
But I think if this infighting in that larger alliance happens next week, like at least we're shown in the preview, which we kind of stated earlier, you kind of take what they put in there with a grain of salt because they never want to telegraph something that much. But if there is in fact that kind of faction, I could see him slipping by a vote or 2. Mm-hmm. And so say that he's able to slip to after the next vote, that gets him to 7. He has an idol that gets him to 6 potentially, but you want to tell me that I could see him winning 2 challenges and getting to the final tribal? That's not what I'm predicting, but I'm saying I see the path for it. My bigger issue with him is I don't know what votes he gets, if any, depending upon who he's up against. Yeah. I think the other thing that works out for him is we did see that conversation that he had with Erica while that larger group kind of blatantly went off and said, let's go talk further on down the beach, that maybe he can link back up with Erica and Heather. But I have him at a 4. Yeah. I was low on him, and then I kind of did the roller coaster where I was high, and now I think I'm back at another, on the downfall with him, but not counting it out. It's just I think he has a hard path to get to the final 3, and then I think an even harder path to secure the votes to get there. Because Jeff would want to give it to him right on the spot, but with the people that are currently there, I don't know how many jury votes he has, depending upon who he could be up against.
That makes a lot of sense. The thing is, and I think, sure, the infighting helps him maybe survive a vote, and sure, can he win 2 immunities and win the fire making? Sure. I also think, though, if he gets to the end, he tries to take out Liana. And I almost think Liana needs to be sitting next to him if he wants any shot of winning. Because all Liana can, because then he can say, like, you know what? Liana's tried to get me out this whole game, and she failed. Her one goal was to get me out. She failed. That's one person I think he can beat. Who else can he beat? Heather? Maybe. That might be his path, and it might be his only path, I think, really. Because I think if anybody else gets to the end, maybe Danny, actually. Maybe Danny, maybe Erica. Those are people he'd have an outside shot of beating, but I almost think he has a path. It's like as thin as it possibly can. It's there, but it's like it has to go exactly how he says, or one little chop and he's done. It's like hanging by the smallest of threads possible.
And the only other thing that I'll say is that if he was this huge underdog that took these risks and against all odds made it to the end and won, Jeff would have had the massive jerk off party ahead of time, just being like, this is the greatest season of all time,
Oh my
bar
god.
none. And
Maybe,
no,
do you
I
think
didn't hear that.
he learned from Holloway and Driebergen to cool it a little bit?
Don't
don't.
forget Cochran too. He
Oh
went after
yes, and
Philippines
Cochran.
saying that Caramon was going to be great. No, I
Oh,
don't think he
oh,
did, because there was an interview where he was, I think this was pre-Winners at War, but he was giving like his Mount Rushmore of, the 4 best Survivor players. And like I said, it was pre-Winners at War, so he didn't have Tony on there. He did Rob, of course. He did Sandra, Parvati, and he put Ben in there. So I don't think he's learned his lesson for the fact that he had Ben at his Mount Rushmore of Survivor players.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think he did. And yeah, Jeff would have a fit. But here's the thing I also think is going against Xander. He's 20 out there.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time believing a jury is voting for a 20-year-old or 21-year-old to win the game. Yes, it happened with Fabio and Jenna Marask. I'm not saying it can't happen, but a guy won who's below. What?
We haven't seen it lately.
I don't see it. I don't see it with this jury. It's comprised of Tiffany, who's an older parent, Nasir, who's an older parent. I think Evie maybe, but I also think Evie's that like old. She's got like that older heart, if you know what I mean. I see it being tough for her to vote for almost a kid. And I think that's like an obstacle a lot of these people are going to have to cross, voting for a kid to win.
I also see Evie kind of being someone that she's not going to necessarily be impressed by all the gadgets and idols and stuff like that.
There's no way Evie will.
I think Evie is more on a traditional who played the best social game, I think is where her vote goes. And
Evie also is a person who saw Xander a lot in the game and is going to be a person that not only I think doesn't campaign for him, but is not going to deliberately campaign against him, but I think is going to make arguments against Xander. And I think that's going to take a lot of weight with the jury. So the more I see it, the less of a shot he has to win. But I feel okay putting him in the 3s, just above Heather in my eyes. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about him. I like him. I hope to talk to him postseason about his game. And yeah, I want to see him play again, but maybe in a few years. And also, I loved his lines about talking about being a CS person and like debugging code, because as a comp sci major in college, that spoke to me a lot. But I would hope that I would play a better game than Xander. I probably wouldn't, but I would hope that I would. All right.
He's being brought back. As long as Jeff has any say in the cast on our attorneys pool, like Xander will be back.
More than likely, unless we get Xander 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the next couple seasons. But you know what? We probably will. We'll see. All right. Is there anything else about this episode on the whole that you want to talk about, Dan?
I think for the most part, we covered it all.
I think we did a pretty thorough job this season. Still, I'm going to say what I've said the whole season. This cast is fantastic. The twists are getting annoying, although they're dying down a little bit, which I appreciate. And we're less than a month from the finale now, which is crazy to think about. We have, let me just check the calendar. So we have an episode the day before Thanksgiving, and we have 2 more, and then the finale. So what also is going to mean is we're going to have 5 people at the finale, which I am also very happy about.
I think that's the better way to do it. Because when you get to that final 6, you're just rushing through.
Yes.
So much.
And they're going to be able to take their time getting through the final 5 vote, which I think will be really interesting. The final 4 fight making, which is again a dud, and we need to stop it. But you know what? They'll have time to get through it, and then hopefully an adequate final tribal council. I don't think there's a reunion, so I think they'll have actually a lot of time to get through this, which is really interesting. And yeah, I am just so grateful that the Survivor's back, the season's happening. It's a really good season. I wish it could be better, and I think it could be. But you know what? Let me not cry over spilled milk. All right. And as we look forward into next week, it is almost certain Lauren Pratt and I will be back the week right after Thanksgiving at some point. Almost certainly with another Survivor player that is in the works. First off, Dan, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute blast. Yeah, you're a great friend of mine. I love talking Survivor with you. And I know Lauren is going to be so envious that we're getting to talk about this amazing show without her. And I hope she is, because you know what, Lauren, I love you. But yeah, I hope you're a little bit jealous that I got to talk to Dan for 2 hours. All right. With that being said, a couple of plugs. If you want to become a patron of Reality NSFW and catch all the extra content that Johnny and Matt are putting out there, including weekly Q&As where they will talk about anything. The podcast is called Reality NSFW. Dan and I aren't that NSFW, neither is Lauren, but boy are Johnny and Matt, that they are that to a T. They will talk about anything and everything. It's really insane in my opinion.
I actually try to submit questions for that most weeks. So maybe I'm not as NSFW myself, but I like to fan the flame.
Yeah, you absolutely.
Anyway.
That is very true. Also, if you want t-shirts and a personal phone call from Johnny Fairplay, go to johnnyfairplay.com. If you want to check out coverage of the Challenge All-Stars at All-Stars 2, I believe that's on Paramount Plus. Johnny, Matt, and Alex Trias. Johnny, Alex Trias, and Lauren are doing that every single week. And also, Wednesday night, November 24th at around 9:15 Eastern, some combination of Johnny Fairplay, Matt Bischoff, and Alex Trias will be back to talk about episode 10 of this incredible season. And with that being said, Dan, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And to everybody who's stuck with us, thank you for watching. Have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Lucy Nicotine is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck.
Researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in 3 flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Lucy also has a lozenge with 4 milligrams of nicotine in cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great, and it's convenient and discreet. Products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, or even in the gym.
I am so happy that Lucy is sponsoring us. Ever since they came on board, I have gotten no less than 5 of my friends transitioned over to Lucy and put their cigarettes down. They like the gum. I'm used to seeing the packages all around. This stuff is great, and it's really helping people make much healthier choices. So get on board and join the Lucy movement.
Hey, it's 2021. Get rid of your cigarettes, unplug your vape, throw out your dip, and get some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each month. It's so simple that you don't even have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down.
Reality NSFW listeners, go to lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR to get 20% off all products, including gum or lozenges. That's lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's lucy.co, and be sure to use that promo code SURVIVOR.
This episode of Reality NSFW is sponsored by Blue Chew. Say it with us, Blue Chew. Blue Chew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom by offering chewable tablets that can help men get stronger and longer-lasting erections. That's right, we're giving away super hard dicks.
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men achieve harder, stronger erections to combat all forms of ED.
Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor offices, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, it's all done online.
Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problem here. Blue Chew's sildenafil and tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy.
Hey, if you're looking to give that immunity idol to someone, or you don't want to be voted out of a crater, don't worry, Blue Chew's got you covered. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information.
And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Blue Chew, BlueChew.com, promo code SURVIVOR to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.